When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs. And boy, this fall weather is so nice. We've got the Empower and Elevate conference, November 17th. Wow, amazing conference. For those of you that missed the November 17th conference, we have one coming up on March 21st as well. All the links are below. We would love to have you join us here in beautiful Mesa, Arizona. And the weather is gorgeous this time of year for you to be flying in. That's going to be 200 local female business owners in the room for you to be able to network with and get to know. And just a great, wonderful time of empowering and elevating not only you, but your business throughout the day. So we'd love to see you there. And we'd love to hear from you about our latest guests that we've had on the show. Today, we're on episode 209. So any episodes that we've had up to this point, please reach out to us at info@colleenbiggs.net. We would love to hear from you. And today, I have Smita Joshi with us, and we're going to be talking about connecting to your highest within. We've had on this show before conversations about intuition, conversations about spirit, conversations about listening. Today, I want you to think about, how do I connect to my inner? Because my inner world is really what's creating my outer world. How do you connect to that highest of yourself within? And that's going to take slowing down and not just hustle and bustle all the time. You're really going to have to slow down to listen to that. But I'm excited because Smita is here to really guide us through the steps that you need to do to be able to accomplish that. But before we get to our amazing guest today, I do want to thank our sponsor of today's show, Live and Learn. Live and Learn's mission is to empower women to break the cycle of generational poverty. We envision a world where women thrive, strengthening their families and the community. Live and Learn is a nonprofit organization for women that was founded in 2012 to empower women in the Phoenix metro area. It began as an initiative of the Arizona Foundation of Women and became an independent organization in 2014. Live and Learn continues to grow every year to meet the financial, educational needs, and career training for women in our community. To find out more, or if you wish to donate, visit liveandlearn.az.org. I'm very excited about that. They are definitely one of our nonprofits that we highlight throughout the year and raise money for. So I can't think of anything better than breaking generational poverty and bringing women out of that and training them so that they can make the money that they need to be able to thrive for themselves and their children. Okay, let's get to Smita Joshi here today. And I would say she is an award-winning author, an avid yogi and yoga teacher, and high performance and transformational coach. She's the author of the Amazon bestseller, The Karma and Diamonds Trilogy, inspired by real events from her own life. Karma and Diamonds follows a young woman's gripping journey of self-discovery across continents and lifetimes as she struggles to conquer life's conflicts and unpredictable challenges. And then she started heeding the inner voice. Prior to writing the trilogy, in business career spanning 25 years, working with technology giants as well as startups, Smita worked internationally with global leaders of the industry, winning multi-million-dollar contracts, the largest being $1 billion. Smita, welcome to today's show.
Thank you so much, Colleen. As I was saying to you before we came on the show, that you're prolific. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. And 230, did you say 200 and what episode?
Oh, 200. Today is 209. Yeah.
209.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Take the Leap is a wonderful podcast that's been out there sharing the voices of women and men on really helping every individual design their life the way they want their life to become. And how can we design our lives if we don't know, if we're not connecting to our highest, right? Of within. And so I know that you've written this book, Karma and Diamonds, the trilogy, because of your life's tragedies and things that have happened along the way. I'm assuming during that time you weren't connecting to your highest within, and many people listening probably aren't connecting to their highest within at this point. So, what was that life like for you going through that journey?
Yeah, actually, for me, Colin, I had the first connection when I was 7. Very,
Okay.
very powerful connection when I was 7. It was on the back of a very traumatic situation that happened in my life that day, and I sat there in front of our home shrine, as one does in India. And I literally spoke to the gods, and I said, "What's going on? Like, what is this? This is unacceptable. Why is this happening? Either you don't exist, or something I need to know. Like, what is this about? Is this all random? And later on, as I was in my 20s, the questions became: was it all random? Was it all just something that happens, in one's life, or is there a bigger purpose behind it? But in fact, on that day when I was 7, I actually had this very deep awakening, and it was like a mind, body, spirit, literally like little sparkling diamonds rising up my spine. I heard a voice that said, "You are well taken care of." And it was a very, very clear, powerful voice, not one inside my mind, but somewhere external, so much so that I actually looked around to see who is there, like what's happening. But as that whole experience was very quick to happen, but at the same time, I saw a palm, um in my through my third eye. I saw a palm, and it was a huge palm with a little girl in it, and she was being carried along as though the palm were a magic carpet. And just in that whole experience of having the kind of like this incredible energy rise up my spine that looked to me like little sparkling diamonds, and that voice, and then seeing that little girl, for me, that was something that calmed me down so much, and it anchored me so much into my being, so much so that it was something that has never left me. So that when other things have happened in my life, many things happened in my childhood and then later, and every single time there was something that would keep coming back to me with regards to that experience. It would keep somehow anchoring me. So while I didn't understand about the highest within and any of those types of things,
Mhm.
there was this sense that there is something which is
Yes.
beyond what I understand, what I know, what's within my grasp, and that I could. But it did keep coming back to me when I had other traumatic situations. But when I was in my 20s, I'd left home and I was working in corporates, and I had this very steady, I was doing really well at work. There was something that started to speak to me then. I lived on my own very early on, since the age of 21. I managed to buy my own place and stuff. And I was sitting there at home evening after evening by myself. And that was when things started to come to the surface. And that was
Mm.
when I started to feel the unresolved feelings, emotions, things I had never articulated starting to arise. And I didn't understand what they were. And I really needed guidance. There was another part of that, which was that most people are either introverts or extroverts, whereas I loved my work in the in the world. I love to do the things that I have done out there. Very, very hardcore business environments, very, high pressure and so on. But the reason why I lasted 25 years was simply because I learned very early on in my career that if I didn't have that nourishment from within, if I didn't connect to this whatever that thing was that spoke to me that day and explore it further, that for me, life was indeed only half. It was only two-dimensional. So that was when I started to explore more on the back of this book a friend gave me. I started to explore what was that voice? What was when, and all these questions like, who am I? What is the purpose of life? And I started to ask those very deep existential questions given by the the questions I had about my childhood and why things happened the way they did. And so, what was there for me to learn from it? So, that was when I started to meditate. And that was when I self taught to meditate. That was when I started to journal. And the two things combined were my practices for really listening to that voice by allowing myself to be still and silent, ask the questions. Because one of the things I think that my journey's taught me is that unless we learn to ask the right questions, we will never get the right answers. We want answers to questions we haven't asked. And that's part and parcel of learning about this journey, this inner journey, about connecting to the highest within. Because there is this twofold world where on the one hand we have this persona that we've developed on, to survive in the world, to survive the dynamics of our environments, families, whatever our bag of stuff is, because we each have one. But then there is this other part of you that is beyond all of that, that is not touched by any of that. And the ancient Vedics called it Atman and Brahman. It is that part of you, that pure consciousness that doesn't ever get touched by anything that is changing the world outside, our experiences, our feelings, our emotions, our any of the external stuff. And it's things with that pure consciousness remains always present, always observing, always guiding. But our challenge is to learn how we are not listening to it. What are the conversations we have about ourselves, the limiting conversations about our stories that we tell ourselves about what's happened in our lives, that we tend to then be so overpowered by and buried under it many times that we're not able to hear that guidance very often. So that's
Yeah.
the job.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because you had said about asking ourselves the questions, who am I? What is my purpose? What do I love? What do I want? That is a contemplation question that we need to take within for us to be able to get to the root of that answer. And I love that when we're starting to connect with our highest within, as you're saying this to everyone listening, they already know that they've heard the voices. They've heard the voices. It's come to them at some point or another in their life where they've thought to themselves, wait, what was that hunch? What was that voice? What was that prompting? And for you, it really started at 7 when you didn't really understand what it was like to connect with your highest within, but you had questions, and sitting there and asking those questions out loud and looking for that guidance. And then realizing as you grew older, you talked a lot about, when living on your own, you were alone. And so you spent time alone. And that's probably the one hint I would give some people listening today is you need to spend some time alone with yourself, without screen time, without a TV playing, without music playing, and just in quiet, and start asking yourself some of these questions. When you're working with clients, Smita, do you have them go through a specific step of questions that they get quiet and ask themselves? How are you teaching them to connect to their highest within?
Right. So I love to do that on the go. So one of the biggest accesses in my yoga practice that I have found, and yoga, by the way, meaning not just the physical side, but the breath, the focus, the concentration, the meditation. And so the whole path, the eightfold path as it is, Ashtanga yoga. And what I say to everybody is, please, please, you don't have to look very far. You can just connect your breath. So the reason why we first of all, we don't want to be silent, we don't want to be on our own, we don't want to turn the noise off, is precisely because we don't want stuff to come up.
Mhm.
That is there. That is waiting for us to be given, some time to. And one of the nicest ways of doing it is by just learning to breathe more deeply. And there are many yogic practices that we do, yoga practices, but I just say to people, just sit still for a few moments, and on a daily basis, just breathe. Just take an inhale and exhale, and very, very slowly start to take another inhale and slow the breath down more and more and more. And then on the exhale, slow the breath down longer and smoother and slower. So you will then start to feel this sense of okayness. Once we can arrive in our body, so most of our awareness is called pratyahara in yoga. This ability to withdraw your senses that are magnetized to the external world. We are so
Mhm.
glued to our senses are outwards. Yeah. So the social media has become one incredible source of diversion and aversion from that which is asking for a little bit of time from you. So that we start to bring all of our senses inwards purely by using the breath. And when you use the breath, what you're doing is you're actually allowing the nervous system to calm down. You're massaging the nervous system with the breath. But on top of that, the breath is the access to that vital force. We allow the vital force to enter through the breath into our system in a more conscious way. So we become very conscious of how we how we bring calm into our minds, into our bodies. Once we allow ourselves to do that, then the fear of things coming up, the fear of things that are unresolved starting to come and bite you, we start to dance with that a little bit more. We start to stalk the fear, as my one of my very good friends and yoga teachers, Anna Forrest, says. She says, I've just done a podcast with her. She uses this term, stalk your fears rather than let them stalk you. So
Mhm.
what happens is we start to become more in charge of our breath.
Mhm.
In that moment, what happens is we start to notice things that arise. And how I teach people to very quickly learn how to grapple with the deeper stuff is by becoming so in anchored into your breath and becoming the observer. So you start to observe through, like observe the thoughts that are coming up, observe the feelings that are coming up, observe the fears, the emotions that are coming up, and not identify with them. So the reason why we are so hooked into stuff is because we allow ourselves to identify. It's a bit like when you have stuff in a river that's just flowing by. You're sitting on a riverbank, and suddenly you see some stuff, floating by, pieces of driftwood or whatever, and you go and try and take it and make it your own. But you don't need to. You just allow it to float by. Or leaves in the autumn, like we're in the autumn right now. Just allow the leaves to float away. You don't have to grab them
Mhm.
because they're not you. Those thoughts are not you.
I think the
Thoughts.
key that you're saying is not identifying with it, because the minute the thought comes in, we want to identify with that. And that's where we start going down that rabbit hole and start spiraling, as we would say. So I love that, of just the observing and not identifying with. That's a great step for anyone to take in silence.
And the third step is to really train yourself, like really get a mental discipline to not make it mean something, not make it mean something about you, about your life, about anything. Allow it just to be. That is detachment. That is a deep, it's a very evolved form of consciousness, the ability to detach from knowing that people do wrong us, and we do have aspects of ourselves that cause other people sometimes injury, right? So we know that. But the thing is, the more we get into the guilt and the all that other stuff, then we are caught in that net, and there's no
Mhm.
escape for a very long time. So we want to grab it. If there is something that you can do with something that happened or something that was said or whatever, take the action and let it be done, and really do that from that's higher place. But at the same time, understanding that you are on a journey, you are work in progress. And the way to move into this is first by connecting to the breath, secondly, not identifying, thirdly, by detaching and becoming the observer so much more than no one ever taught us to do that. So that's the practice of yoga
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Do you suggest that when someone is just breathing and having this quiet time for themselves, that they have a journal to write any of this down, or is it just observation at this point?
At this point, I think the two practices are quite separate, and you might
Yeah.
combine them at some point when you have you can dance with your skills, once you become
Yeah.
more competent at them. And then, listen to that voice. The voice might say, for the moment, I want to use a pen, but try to use something that moves with the hands, that connects with the nervous system, that allows that higher consciousness to actually work through you. And then the practice is then to just keep the pen moving. I mean, if people were to read my books, they'll realize that I used that practice very much from meditation into journaling. And it took me back into past lives in ways, I mean, Colleen, I can tell you, you'd think it's fiction, because what happens is it takes you into the nooks and the crannies. When you make a commitment to getting to the source of whatever
Mhm.
it is that you're working on, then you have to be willing to get to the source. And the source might not be in this moment as you know it to be. You need to be willing to move with where the consciousness needs you to move to in order to resolve it. And sometimes it takes you into times before the linear time that we know now,
Yeah.
and into bodies that you were perhaps before. So both of these work, but I do say, if someone's a beginner, really get connected to the breath and really just sit still long enough for a little bit, rather than be tempted to keep fidgeting. It can become another distraction.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I would say for everyone listening, we need to start with that, for connecting to the highest within and just breathing, like you had said, slow it down the best that we can, and then just observe and then stay disconnected from that. Don't take it, don't own it, don't make it yours, but just stay a distance from it. I love that explanation, is
And
beautiful.
just to take you to that, what happens when you do that, Colleen, is that just on the other side of all of that noise
Yeah,
and the movement is that stillness, is that still consciousness that is, as I say, the observer that's waiting, the where the intuition may flow from. Of course, we don't know, but I assert it tends to is one of the sources, where knowledge and wisdom, which is beyond what you know, and which is what you are effectively wanting to tap into if you truly want to um, heal.
sure.
So using the mind alone is not going to get us there, because the mind alone got us there.
Hmm.
So we want to go beyond that source. We want to go to the real essence of who we are, and allow that to become our informant, and be informed by that, be guided by that. So
Yeah.
that's what's available on the other side.
It's beautiful. And I know everyone listening right now is I want to practice that. I want to try that. I need that in my life. And this is where we find peace. It really is. This is where we find peace. And if we're not willing to take the time, then our lives are going to be chaos, and they're going to be everything that we create them to be on purpose, because you're choosing not to take that time and slow down. So I know many of them listening would love to know how to get in touch with you, Smita. So we've got some links. Tell us a little bit more about, they can follow you on Instagram, and tell us more about your YouTube channel.
It's called the Self Discovery Channel, and the handle is just my name, at Smita Joshi. And we have an amazing, rich resource of content on there, where I've interviewed people. I don't know if you know Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. You know Sadhguru. He's got millions
Hmm.
of followers today. We have other Indian gurus, like spiritual gurus. We have people who are more into the area of self mastery, such as Dr. John DeMartini. I
Yeah.
recently, I also interview yoga masters because people, the field of yoga is not very well understood. So we talk about, and some of them also do bring in other modalities such as shamanic ceremony and stuff like that. And so I have a very rich resource on my YouTube channel. I make my own content as well. And I for the moment, I'm putting out content twice a day on Instagram, on the various channels, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I have a page.
Wonderful.
So I highly encourage you to take a look at the YouTube channel
Mhm.
and leave us a comment or two. That would be really nice to see
That's
what you think
great.
of my content and
Thank
what else
you.
people might want.
I can't remember when John DeMartini was on our show. It was, geez, probably a couple of years ago that we had him on our show. He was an amazing guest, a great
Amazing.
referral from another individual. She's also on TikTok, so you can find Smita there on TikTok as well. All the links are there, so they're at your fingertips. All you have to do is click on them. And you'll be able to grab those resources. And I just want to remind all of you today, as I always do, at the end of the show, that you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. And I just think that is so special. And you are special and you matter. We see you and you matter. And we want you to see yourself. We want you to take the time to slow down, to breathe, to connect to your highest within. And I promise you, because I practice this, you will get so many answers to questions that you have if you just take the time to relax and believe and have that faith. And I live my life on that. And it has proven to work miraculously throughout my years, of my later years, I would say, in life when I began those practices. And so I would love for them to go to your website as well, Smita, because on your website, I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge out there and ways that they can connect with you. But I would love for them just to DM you as well and
Be
be able
absolutely
to have
lovely.
a conversation with you and ask questions.
And please download the free gifts that are available there on the website. We have
Oh,
this
wonderful.
meditation called A Star-Studded Sky, and it's really just designed to guide you through a beautiful meditation where you can
Beautiful.
do exactly what I said earlier, is to just observe and watch your thoughts like shooting stars pass by. And so,
Mm,
I've got a lot of meditations on my website, and 12 of them we attach to the books as well,
yeah.
because they are the journeys. Some of the journeys, for example, swimming with wild dolphins off the coast of Hawaii, I've made that into a meditation. The connection with those beings was so profound that I felt it deserved,
Sure.
to be shared in a way that people don't have to go there. They may not go there right now. Then there are many others you'll see. So connecting to your inner group, connecting to the guru within, and invoke your goddess within is another beautiful one.
Beautiful.
You'll also find that on Insight Timer. And I've got some on Spotify. I've got this album called Calm Your Mind, and there are 3 meditations in there that one can listen to for free. I think it's probably downloadable. So that one, Trees in Breeze, Put Your Mind at
Mm.
Ease. There's Drifting Clouds, Wandering Thoughts, and then there's one other in there.
Yeah, these are wonderful to play in the evenings too, when you're calming down for bed and going to bed. They're wonderful meditations to play. So thank you for sharing all of that with us today. It's been wonderful, Smita, to have you on today's show. And to all the listeners out there, thank you so much for being loyal listeners of our podcast. And until next time, as always, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery, where you learned the tools to create a life by design. Remember, you are the only you there is, and you are the only you that will ever be. Be you and be strong, because you are brilliant, and the world needs you at your best. We cannot wait for you to join us again next time.